Afternoon. I'm Emry Birdwell. My wife and I, Deborah Clark, ranch in Henrietta, Texas. We have moved there 15 years ago. We run 14,000 acres there. We're running a very high density rotational program, and it's actually, some people would call it a mob. We run 5,000 head in one bunch. We rotate through approximately 130, 40 permanent paddocks, plus we'll cut those paddocks during the growing season with a poly wire and rotate and move those cattle 3 to 4 times to 5 times a day. And doing that, in 2011, up until 2011, we'd run 3 herds, and in 2011, the drought of 2011 forced us into 1 herd. And from then on, we've stayed in that 1 herd with the 1 herd idea, and rotated those cattle out that way. We also straighten out 1,500 to 2,000, 3,000 cattle to go to wheat in the fall, and they run there on the grass too till they're ready to go to wheat. Since 2011, up until 2011, we'd already decreased the bare ground up to that point, but since we went to the 1 herd concept, we've decreased the ranch. It was probably 25% bare ground. We've decreased it down to maybe there's 5% of that left is bare ground, and that's been our biggest accomplishment so far. We also went in to make this thing work and ensure against drought and not having any water. We put in 25 miles of poly pipe, and then we branch off of that from the main line with our I've gone blank on but with smaller pipe to the troughs. We have a portable water trough that we water all these cattle with, and it's about 14 to 16 foot long, and we pull that water trough from one valve in the paddocks to the next. Each paddock has a water valve in it, so that's how that's the concept that we've developed to best water these cattle. We just recently were here today, this last week in New Orleans at the NCBA convention, where we won our Region 4 ESOP award, or Environmental Stewardship Award. We're very proud of that, and it's a great honor to have done that. During the wintertime, it's 1 to 2 days before we move. During the growing season, we figure around the 1st of April, middle of March, we'll start the growing season, and we'll start moving 3 to 4 or 5 times a day with the herd. We will go through about 150 to 75 acres during that period, or maybe 200, as much as 200, till the grass starts, the perennial type grasses start to catch up. And we try to go as fast as you can, but to begin with this growing season, to keep them off those perennial type grasses, and they'll be grazing annuals at that time, and forbs and legumes that we have. Move them, we've figured out we use what we call risers. It's just poly pipe, 6 or 7 foot joints of poly pipe, and we undo the wire from an insulator on a post, stick that pipe on top of that T-post, and pull the wire up and teach these cattle to go under it. That way we can go to where the cattle are at, and it take the stress away from moving those cattle. We just been making them come back to a gate. And even when you use one gate and moving that many cattle, the erosion that happens even on dry ground is pretty significant. If it's wet, you'll end up bogging those cattle down. So we use the poly pipe to give them a bigger area to go through, or as many areas openings as we can. You know, I know y'all are into the low stress stock handling, and we are too. It's extremely important. We buy high risk cattle every fall and straighten them out. So, and one of the main things that makes these cattle sick or contributes to sickness is the stress that's involved from the day they hit that sale barn until they get to us. And so when they get to us, we try to do as much as we can, but for diminishing that. And when we process cattle, whatever, we don't use hot shots, flags, poles, anything. There's nothing in anybody's hand, and we've eliminated all the shouting and hollering. And we found that it's really settled those cattle down a lot. When in the summertime we get ready to ship, we we've got two chutes, two loading chutes and two bud boxes on the end of our alley, and so we can load about 950 to 1,000 cattle in an hour's time, and that's all we'll load. We'll pin those cattle and load them and be done. But the reason we go only in an hour's time, the only load for an hour, is because for every hour they're standing in a lot, it's 1% shrinker more. We don't allow anybody in the pens of horseback except two kids that on the very back, and they use them. Two reasons: they're not fighting their horse all the time, and so they're a lot easier on those cattle in the back end. And then we're trying to generate the next or encourage the next generation to help us later on in life. Both my mother and daddy and my wife's mother and daddy, of course, contributed. You know, we started with what they had. And then, of course, my wife was in the construction business. My parents were in the ranching business. And no, we couldn't have got where we're at without them in the beginning. And that's what we're trying to do for our kids. You know, when I first started out in this rotational program, I learned under Alan Savory, and he taught us, don't double your stocking rate or don't increase your stocking rate till you grow enough grass to take care of them. Well, I thought on the road, and it rained that first year, and I thought I had it going, and I doubled my stocking rate. It quit raining virtually at the same time, and it pretty well wiped me out. And it was a good lesson, but I stayed with it.